So welcome everyone. Feel free to turn on your videos if you'd like to. And also feel free to use speaker view if you would like to. And we appreciate you keeping muted with the number of folks that we expect to have on this call. Background noise adds up in a hurry. So thank you so much for that. So I actually want to start with just, I know we've all been moving around and seeing different sessions, which are wonderful. The first thing I really want us to do is kind of get fully here. So if you want to just take a minute to breathe a little bit, I'm going to change my background so you have a little something beautiful, nature-y to look at. Just take a couple of deep breaths and just notice yourself arriving here. Ready for a new experience, perhaps? Certainly some different conversations. Close your eyes if you like to. And just get in touch even physically with yourself. Notice where in your body you carry tension, where you feel lightness, how you're arriving. And I wonder if there's a space for you. There is for me a particular place where I know I kind of carry my passion. The part of me that just says, hey, there's excitement here, or there's something interesting here. Some people it's chills down the back of their neck. Some people could be in your big toe or butterflies in your stomach. For me, it's right here at my throat. And I call that my passion meter. So see if you can check in with where your passion is. I think we sometimes don't notice that, and just breathe into that space. A couple of deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back. I mentioned the passion meter because following your passion is what we're about today. The goal of open space is to have it be where you can connect with what excites and interests you most, because we think that's your best learning space, and that's where you're going to get the most out of it, and also where the group is going to get the most from you. So it's this really lovely synergistic space. And so pay attention physically and emotionally to where are the spaces, and just noticing, boy, I'm really engaged by this, or, I'm really not engaged by this. And I'll say a bit more in a minute about what to do with those cues, but just drawing attention to them. What we're doing today is probably a new experience for most of you. We're using a format called open space technology, and it's been around for a couple of decades, so it's not brand new by any means, but I imagine for many of you, this is your first experience of it. And lots of people are getting their first online experience of it this year. So we're all kind of finding our way through that. We call it open because we start with a wide open agenda. One of the really key pieces of open space is that it is not up to the organizers to decide what's interesting to you or what's worth your time to talk about. In this space, what you're interested in is what matters. So our open agenda is the open part. We have space, which in this case is our virtual space, our online, being on Zoom together. Normally that would be sort of conference rooms or other kinds of rooms in various spaces. Today it's Zoom rooms, and we have plenty of them. And we call it technology, not so much because it has to do with wires or motherboards or things of that nature, but because it's technology in the sense of being an innovative way of doing things. The sense that likely this is not something you've done this way before, and certainly there was a point at which was a brand new way, as I say, a few decades back, but that it is a different sort of structure and different sort of approach. And what we think is that it is probably unfamiliar and actually perhaps uncomfortable even in its unfamiliarity for some folks, because we're going to ask you to break a lot of the rules that you've learned are the rules for what you're supposed to do in a conference or in a classroom or in a lecture. And so to help you sort of release those other expectations and adopt the open space way, we have 5 principles of open space and 1 law. So I'm going to go through those 5 principles and 1 law and intersperse with them some of the sort of technical how we're going to do this using the QiQoChat. So the first principle of open space is whoever comes are the right people. So we don't have to worry about, is the right person here, or is there a speaker, or is there somebody who knows something, or do I know something, do I belong here? We set all of that aside because we absolutely know that whoever is together at this moment are the right people to be together in this space. We get to keep track of who's where a little bit. So in the QiQoChat screen, if you take a look at that, you can see people's pictures populated. Right now, we're all hanging out together in the main room. As we move around in a few minutes here and start going from session to session, you will see pictures appearing in the rooms where people are. So if you're curious who is together in a place, you can actually scan there and see who is where. So if you haven't updated your profile picture, that would be a thing to do. And I know we've had a few people arrive since I said it last. The way to do that is to go to the upper right of your QiQoChat screen where it says your name and use the drop-down menu to edit your profile. So that's the first principle of open space, is whoever comes are the right people. Principle number 2, whenever it starts is the right time. So we do have a schedule and we have a plan and some structure. And also we know that sessions sometimes start at that time, and sometimes they start at some other time, and sometimes they start because 2 people run into each other, and sometimes they start in the more structured way. If you're looking for a bit of the when, you can scroll down that document that's on your QiQoChat on the right-hand side that says welcome to the conference. If you scroll down along about the 2nd or 3rd page is the master schedule, and that's printed in East Coast US time. So that's the sort of scheduled start times, and we want to encourage you to hold those a little bit loosely today. When it starts is when it starts, and that's exactly the right time. Principle number 3, wherever it happens is the right place. So we'll have a way for rooms to be designated for particular topics, but if you find yourself in a room that doesn't have a label on it, or you find yourself in the gardens, or you find yourself in some other place having a meaningful, exciting and engaging conversation, congratulations, you're having an open space session. That's how that goes. And so don't feel like you have to be in a particular place or with a particular person or at a particular time. To navigate the rooms, you will just click on the room that you want to go to. And once we get the agenda generated, the topics will also be printed in those boxes with the rooms. So you can click on whichever room you want to go to. That will take you to this QiQoChat screen for that room. You will still need to click on join video for the particular room that you want to be in. I'll say more about that in a minute. But you are able to navigate there. There are the rooms which will have some topics assigned to them. And then there are the gardens, which are kind of more hangout places. So you're welcome to go to any of those places at any time. So principle number 4, whatever happens is the only thing that could have. We find that the more that we can relax from expectations and follow that passion meter that I talked about, follow that engagement. If you are excited, engaged, and learning, that's the only thing that counts. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have. And we think you likely will be surprised at just how rich that is. We do like to keep a note of what happened because you won't be able to be in all the rooms at once. And so one of the things that this QiQoChat format does, and feel free to click on room 1 or room 2 now, that won't take you out of the Zoom room. You can just click on room 1, and what you'll see there is the blank notes sheet. And what we'll ask is when you're in a session, particularly if you're convening, but if you can just make sure that someone is recording the notes, or even better, someone's. The great thing about Google Docs is that it's collaborative note-taking. So when you get to a session, make sure you're in that note sheet. Each note sheet has session spaces for the 3 different time slots of sessions that we'll have today. So if you're in the 2nd time slot today, that would be time slot B. You want to scroll down till you get there. You can also use the, there's a little table of contents icon to the left of the note sheet that you can use to navigate if you prefer. But we do encourage you to take those notes. They will be available to everyone after the conference. And so if you can keep a record in that way of what happened, it's wonderful. And whatever that is the only thing that could have. And we celebrate that. So that's principle 4. Principle 5, when it's over, it's over. So if you have a really lovely, engaged conversation for 10 minutes and you find you're done, okay. Sessions are scheduled at 40 minutes long, but they don't have to take 40 minutes. So when it's over, it can be over. And there's no need to fill the time. So just sort of get a little free from that expectation. When it's over, I recommend that you actually use the leave button in the Zoom room when you're ready to leave that video room. It'll prompt you to leave the meeting, that standard Zoom language. It does not mean that you're leaving QiQoChat. It just means you're leaving that video gathering space, sort of like walking out the door of a conference room into the rest of the conference. And then you can use your QiQoChat screen to navigate to the room you'd like to be in, and then the join video link there. So when it's over, whether that's at the end of a 40-minute session or sometime sooner or perhaps sometimes later, go ahead and use the leave meeting button to get to another room. So that's the 5 principles. And then this is maybe the most important piece, and the one that's most foreign to us, is the law of 2 feet. And the law of 2 feet says, if you are not learning or contributing to the learning of someone else, it is our expectation, it is necessary for you to use your 2 feet to leave that room and go to a place where you are learning, where you are engaged, where you are passionate, or you are contributing to the learning of someone else. And because we're online, we're converting the law of 2 feet and calling it the law of 2 clicks to get you to another room where you can be engaged. And so we want to encourage you to do that at any time and not necessarily wait for the end of the session. It is not considered impolite in the realm of open space to leave while someone's speaking. Go to the place where you are engaged and excited. We have a couple of roles that we like to talk about. So some people find that they get excited for about 2 minutes in each thing, and they go from one room to another room to another room, and we call them bumblebees, because that's actually a really valuable service that those folks do for the rest of the group, which is that they take a little bit of all the different things and they carry it from room to room to room, just like little pollinators. So we want to celebrate that. Folks who move around a lot, feel free to do that. You're the bumblebees and you carry a lot of information from group to group and create a sort of cohesiveness. The other role that we find is the opposite. It's the people who don't get engaged in any session at all at the moment, and they just sort of hang out, maybe in the gardens, maybe in the main room, wherever they are. And we call them butterflies, because we find what happens with those folks is that other folks find them and see their beautiful colors, and suddenly a session that wasn't planned or named begins to happen in that space, and the butterflies sort of anchor those sessions happening randomly throughout the day. So feel free to be a bumblebee or a butterfly, or to just be a person who likes to find one session and join that session. So that is the overall overview of how open space technology works. And I want to pause just for a second in case anyone has questions. Feel free to, probably the best thing is to pop a question in the chat, and then we're going to go in just a minute into, so how do we get this agenda set? Where does the agenda come from? So if anybody has questions, feel free to pop those into the chat. I'm just scanning here really quickly. Looks like we were all there. Okay, so if you will go back to the main room, I know I had you navigate to room 1, but we really need to be back in the main room for agenda setting. The way an agenda gets set at open space is that the people who are attending offer sessions, or we say they convene sessions. And I want to be really clear that I didn't say the experts or the smart people or the ones who are in charge or the board. Those people certainly can offer to convene a session, but also if you're someone who's brand new and doesn't know very many people, but there's something that you would be interested in talking about, you absolutely are invited, and we hope you will convene a session. If you're sitting here thinking, but I don't know anything, perfect. If you just want to convene a session with a question, I'd really love to hear from other people about this thing, whatever that topic is. Post that topic and convene a session about that thing. So convening a session can be, I have something I'd like to share. It also absolutely can be, I have something I want to ask or something I want to hear from others about. So if you have an idea of something that would be fun to talk about, you're welcome to convene a session. Logistically, the way that works, we're going to be in the QiQoChat window on that right-hand side. And if you look at the top above where it says welcome and introduction, there are tabs up there with a number of documents that you can link to. And if you go to the one that says Agenda Day 1, you will see right now it is completely empty. It's going to be empty for about another minute. And then what's going to happen is that those of you who have ideas of things you would like to talk about will enter them in. Because of the limitations of Google Docs in terms of numbers, we have actually 2 documents set up. If you would like to enter a session, you need to click on the one next to the agenda that says Edit Agenda Day 1. So if you have an idea for a session, if you would click on Edit Agenda Day 1 and just pick a room, they don't have to fill in order, just pick a room there and put in a short session title and then your name next to it so folks know who's convening that session. And if you want to add some more detail on the next column over, you're welcome to, that's optional. But this is a great moment to start that. So for the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to invite folks to enter their sessions in the agenda, and we're about to find out what we're going to talk about today.